Purpose doesn't wait for applause, and it doesn't pause for approval. When something is planted in your spirit, it is not placed there by the committee of public opinion. It is placed there because it is assigned to you. And when something is assigned to you, no one else gets a vote in how big it becomes or how far it takes you. The moment you understand that, you stop shrinking the size of your dream to match the size of someone else's understanding. People will misunderstand your mission because it wasn't given to them. They will question your direction because they were never invited to walk it. They will doubt your timing because they can only see your present, not your purpose. And if you make the mistake of seeking their permission, you'll find yourself waiting for someone who doesn't even know where. You're going to validate the path you were born to walk. Purpose does not operate on permission slips. Your calling will always be too loud for people who prefer quiet lives. It will always be too bold for those who fear risk. It will always be too disruptive for those who worship comfort. And if you measure your next step based on their comfort zone, you will never take another. Again, the truth is, some people don't want you to outgrow them because your growth exposes their stagnation. That's why seeking their approval becomes a trap. Purpose comes with an internal echo, something only you can hear. It whispers direction that makes no sense logically but feels unavoidable spiritually. You know you're meant for more, even when the people around you want you to settle for less. And if you begin to defend that inner whisper to people whose ears were never tuned to hear it, they will drown out the very voice that is guiding your destiny. There will be times when you feel pulled in a direction no one understands. They will ask why you're moving differently, why you're thinking bigger, why you're separating from the familiar. But the very fact that they ask is the proof that they are not called to where you're going. If they can't see your destination, they're not qualified to judge your direction. Purpose is not revealed to everyone. It unfolds for the one called to fulfill it. Most people judge your decisions based on their own limitations. They will tell you what you can't do because they're secretly speaking about themselves. They will define what's realistic based on their own fear, not your potential. And if you wait for permission from fearful minds, you'll never touch the places designed for bold hearts. Permission from others becomes a prison for your potential. Your purpose cannot be explained to people who haven't experienced your pain, your preparation, or your process. They only see the surface of your life, not the struggle beneath it. They see your step, but not your sacrifice. They see your progress, but not your prayers. That's why explaining your purpose to them is pointless, because they're missing the parts that matter most. When you feel the pull of a bigger future, you must understand that this pull is private before it ever becomes public. People won't see what you're building until the results show up. And if you pause your progress every time someone criticizes your process, you'll break momentum before breakthrough arrives. The path of purpose requires movement even when spectators want explanations. You were not designed to fit someone else's expectations. Your calling will never be safe enough, small enough, or convenient enough for people who have accepted average as their standard. And if you defend your purpose to them, they will try to reduce it until it matches their version of normal. But purpose doesn't operate in normal. It operates in necessary. There is a reason your vision bothers some people. Every step you take toward becoming who you are meant to be reminds them of who they chose not to become. Every bold decision you make exposes the decisions they avoided. And instead of addressing their own hesitation, they try to convince you to slow down. This is why permission can never be part of your journey. It dilutes the purity of your calling. Your purpose is the blueprint for a future that doesn't exist yet. That means people around you are judging what you're building based on what they can currently see. They don't see the walls rising, the doors opening, the foundation strengthening. They only see the mess of construction. If you keep trying to make them understand, you'll forget that the vision always looks chaotic before it looks complete. Every person with a significant calling experiences seasons where the world thinks they're moving backward or sideways. That misunderstanding is part of the journey. It forces you to trust the assignment more than the approval, because if approval becomes your fuel, then rejection will become your obstacle. And purpose cannot afford obstacles built from opinions. You don't need validation from people who were never part of your spiritual blueprint. You don't need acceptance from those who weren't present during the moments that shaped you. You don't need agreement from those who never saw the nights you cried, the days you fought, or the battles you overcame. Purpose is personal. It does not come with a panel of judges. When you stop waiting for permission, you start walking with power. You start taking steps that once felt too big. You start moving in confidence because you realize the only approval you ever needed was already placed inside you. That realization becomes the turning point where you stop explaining your life to people who haven't earned the right to influence it. Purpose is direction, not discussion. It's assignment, not argument. It's conviction, not conversation. And the moment you stop defending it, it begins to unfold at a pace you never imagined possible. Results have a language that explanations will never match. When you try to defend yourself, you begin operating on someone else's level, answering questions that don't deserve your energy. But when you focus on producing results, you rise above arguments and enter a space where your actions speak with more authority than your words ever could. Results turn doubters silent without you ever needing to respond. People will always have opinions about your journey, especially when they don't understand the process behind your progress. They will question your choices, criticize your timing, and dissect your decisions as if their commentary carries weight. But results dismantle their assumptions. One moment of visible progress can overthrow months of criticism. Arguments require effort, results require commitment, and commitment always produces a stronger testimony than conflict. Many people think they want explanations, but what they truly want is control. When they ask, why are you doing that? What they often mean is, why aren't you doing what I prefer? If you fall into the trap of constant explanation, you give people power over your direction. But when you stop defending and stop RT producing, you reclaim your authority. You stop being reactive and become strategic. You stop answering them and start outperforming them. Defending yourself makes you focus on perception. Producing results makes you focus on purpose. Perception shifts with emotion, opinion, and bias. Purpose stays firm whether people approve of it or not. When you build from purpose, your foundation becomes unshakable. You stop worrying about how you're being viewed and start investing in who you are becoming. And the stronger you become, the less you feel the need to justify your journey. There's a quiet confidence that develops when you stop explaining yourself. You begin to realize that the people who truly understand your intentions don't need clarity, and the people who constantly demand clarity aren't planning to support you anyway. When you produce results, you naturally separate the committed from the curious, the supportive from the suspicious, the stable from the insecure. Results filter your circle more accurately than explanations ever could. The most powerful individuals in any field rarely respond to criticism. They don't argue with doubters. They don't justify their steps. Don't spend time correcting rumors or calming opinions. They move, they build, they execute, they win. Success becomes their language, and achievement becomes their protection. When you commit to producing results, you elevate yourself to that same frequency. Above the noise, above the drama, above the need to defend. The moment you try to defend yourself, you put yourself on trial. You unknowingly accept the role of someone needing approval. But when you let your results talk, you become the authority in your own life. People listen more carefully. They watch more closely. They adjust their tone. Results shift the atmosphere. Results command respect, even from those who once dismissed you. People may doubt your abilities today, but they cannot deny your results tomorrow. They can argue with your opinions. They can question your motives. They can misunderstand your intentions, but they cannot debate the evidence of what you've built. A breakthrough silences 1,000 rumors. A victory shuts down 1,000 doubts. Accomplishment is the most powerful rebuttal you'll ever have. Results don't require you to shout. They don't require you to argue. They don't require you to defend your results. Speak in a whisper, yet they are heard louder than the loudest critics. Critics talk, but builders transform. Critics observe, but achievers advance. When you dedicate yourself to the mission instead of the noise, you start producing outcomes that speak volumes without you ever needing to raise your voice. Every time you choose results over arguments, you strengthen your identity. You shift your focus from trying to be understood to trying to become undeniable. You move from fighting for respect to earning respect through execution. Respect earned through results lasts longer than respect gained through explanation. Explanations fade, evidence remains, and the more evidence you produce, the less anyone questions your direction. Your results are a mirror reflecting your discipline, your decisions, and your development. They show the world who you are without you needing to announce it. They reveal your evolution without you narrating your growth. Results are not external proof, they are internal maturity made visible. When you produce consistently, your growth becomes impossible to hide, even from those who hoped you would fail. Most arguments are simply distractions, designed to delay your progress. When you invest in results, you reclaim your time and attention. You stop watering dead conversations and start watering seeds that can actually grow. You stop trying to convince people who aren't listening and start cultivating opportunities that produce fruit. Your results then become a garden of proof that cannot be debated. There is a point in your journey when you must choose between being right and being effective. Defending yourself is about being right. Producing results is about being effective. When you choose effectiveness, you stop chasing validation and start chasing excellence. Excellence breeds results. Results build momentum. Momentum builds influence. And influence carries far more power than any explanation could ever provide. Your results also attract a different level of people. They draw in those who understand discipline. They draw in those who respect effort. They draw in those who recognize greatness and progress. And when the right people come into your life, you no longer feel pressured to defend yourself. You suddenly find yourself surrounded by individuals who speak your language, action, consistency, elevation every day. There's a cost to every argument you enter, and the price is always your energy. Every time you pause to justify yourself, you are withdrawing emotional currency from the account meant to fund your future. Defending yourself feels small in the moment, but the impact is large over time. It slowly drains the power you need to build, to grow, and to rise. What you spend on explanations, you lose from your destiny. Life requires energy to win. It requires focus, strength, clarity, and emotional bandwidth. But when you allow people to pull you into pointless conversations, you start giving away the very fuel that was meant to move you forward. You cannot be drained and driven at the same time. You cannot fight for your destiny while defending your decisions. You must choose one. And every moment spent justifying your actions is a moment stolen from your progress. Some people ask for explanations not because they care, but because they want access to your emotions. They want to know they can still influence your peace. They want to know they can still interrupt your focus. They want to know they still matter enough to distract you. When you defend yourself, you feed their hunger for control. When you refuse, you reclaim your authority without ever raising your voice. Your dreams require full power, not half power, not leftover energy after you've argued with people who don't understand your path. Every great achievement is built with the strength you save, not the strength you waste. When you waste energy defending yourself, you weaken the foundation of your future. When you protect your energy, you strengthen the structure of your destiny. Energy is the currency of success, and how you spend it determines how far you can go. There will always be someone who misunderstands your intentions. There will always be someone who misreads your actions. There will always be someone who sees your growth as a threat and responds with judgment. If you allow each misunderstanding to pull you into explanation mode, you will never have the capacity to build what you are meant to build. Energy scattered is purpose delayed. Energy protected is purpose accelerated. Some battles are designed to wear you out, not to work things out. People will disguise their arguments as conversations, their accusations as concerns, their critiques as help. But underneath it all is a simple T. Ruth, they want your attention, and attention is energy. When you give it away freely, you lose the strength required for elevation. The more you get pulled into unnecessary dialogue, the less you have left for the breakthroughs waiting ahead. When you stop defending yourself, something powerful happens. Your inner peace expands. You begin to feel stronger, lighter, clearer. You start realizing how much weight you were carrying that didn't belong to you. Defending yourself is like holding a door open for someone who was never going to walk through. Letting go closes the door and frees your energy for what actually matters. Peace is a strength that grows when explanations cease. Energy is not just emotional, it is spiritual. Every explanation drains a spiritual force within you. It pulls you out of alignment, pulls you out of clarity, pulls you out of vision. Defending yourself becomes a spiritual leak, slowly draining your confidence until you feel weaker and smaller than you truly are. But when you stop trying to convince people who refuse to see your heart, your spiritual strength begins to rise again. Every time you choose silence over defense, you preserve your power. You save. Strength that can be invested in discipline, growth, and excellence. Excellence requires energy. Discipline requires energy. Transformation requires energy. So the more energy you give to unnecessary conversations, the less you have for the work that shapes your future. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it's strategic. It's necessary for elevation. You cannot become who you are meant to be with drained emotions. You cannot build the life you desire with depleted energy. Your destiny requires your full self, not a version of you exhausted from explaining the very things you should be embodying. Every minute spent defending is a minute stolen from creating. And creation is where your power truly lives. Creation is what elevates you. Creation is what moves you forward while arguments keep you stuck. Arguments breed frustration, frustration breeds distraction, and distraction kills progress. Defending yourself often turns into emotional entanglement, and emotional entanglement always turns into stagnation. The more you engage with the wrong energy, the harder it becomes to generate the right energy. But the moment you choose restraint over reaction, clarity over conflict, purpose over pride, your strength begins to return. Your energy is your engine. Without it, you cannot move, cannot build, cannot grow. When you learn to guard it, you become unstoppable. You begin making decisions not based on who's demanding your attention, but on what deserves your attention. You start investing in your purpose instead of wasting yourself on opinions. You stop living in emotional debt and start living in emotional abundance. That shift changes everything. Most people never reach their full potential, not because they lack talent, but because they leak energy. They leak it through arguments, explanations, defenses, and emotional battles that were never theirs to fight. They pour themselves out trying to correct misunderstandings instead of pouring themselves into the work that creates transformation. When you stop defending yourself, you plug those leaks and start rising again. Every argument avoided is strength preserved. Every explanation withheld is clarity protected. Every moment of restraint is energy redirected back towards your mission. And the more you redirect your energy into purpose, the more unstoppable your progress becomes. You will start to feel your moment. You choose to silence your explanations and amplify your execution. You step deeper into your purpose. You transform from someone trying to prove a point into someone proving results. And once your life starts producing visible transformation, those who once doubted you become spectators to the evidence you built through discipline, not discussion. Return, your focus sharpen, and your confidence rise. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped giving your power to everything that made it harder. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of emotional discipline, a version with more strength, more clarity, more drive, more fire, a version built not from arguments but from alignment, a version that grows because your energy is finally invested in your destiny, not wasted on distractions. And the moment you stop defending yourself, you activate that version and allow it to come alive. Silence carries a strength that most people never learn to master. It is not the silence of fear or weakness, but the silence of wisdom. When you choose silence over defending yourself, you step into a place of power that noise cannot enter. You choose to rise above the need to be understood, and in that rise, you discover a level of clarity that constant explanation could never provide. Silence becomes your shield, your strategy, and your elevation. There are moments in life when speaking back only adds fuel to the fire. The more you explain, the more people twist your words, the more you defend, the more critics sharpen their attacks. But when you choose silence, their energy has nowhere to land. Their assumptions have nowhere to grow. Their attempts to provoke you lose strength. Silence disarms the chaos trying to pull you into conflict, and the chaos eventually weakens on its own. Silence allows you to observe without reacting. It gives you the vantage point to see people's true intentions. When you don't rush to explain, you get to watch how others behave without the influence of your responses. You learn who respects you, who misunderstands you, who envies you, and who truly supports you. Silence becomes a powerful filter that reveals what noise tries to hide. It separates the wise from the loud, the grounded from the unstable. People often mistake silence for surrender, but it is the opposite. It is choosing not to pour energy into battles that won't benefit you. It is choosing not to interrupt your growth with unnecessary commentary. Silence is the discipline of emotional control, where you refuse to let someone else's behavior dictate your response. It is the moment you decide your peace is more valuable than being right in someone else's eyes. When you hold your silence, you protect your emotional energy. You stop giving away pieces of yourself to every criticism, misunderstanding, or rumor. You stop leaking power through reactions. Instead, you redirect that energy inward toward building, healing, preparing, and rising. Silence becomes a sanctuary where your strength regenerates. It becomes the place where your vision becomes sharper and your steps become more intentional. There is a certain mystery that silence creates. When people cannot read your response, they cannot predict your next move. When they cannot influence your emotions, they cannot manipulate your direction. Silence places you in a position where your actions speak louder than their assumptions. It creates an aura of self-control that demands respect without a single word being spoken. You become steady in a world that thrives on chaos. Silence also gives you time to process, to reflect, to understand yourself before the world tries to define you. It allows you to respond from clarity instead of reacting from frustration. Most conflicts happen because people rush to defend themselves before they fully understand the situation. Silence interrupts that cycle. It gives you space to gather perspective so that when you finally act, your actions are precise instead of emotional. Silence is not absence, it is intention. It is the choice to protect your inner world from unnecessary intrusion. When you stay silent, you create boundaries without having to announce them. People learn how to treat you based not on what you say, but on what you no longer allow. Silence teaches them that your peace is non-negotiable, your focus is untouchable, and your emotions are not public property. Sometimes silence is the loudest message you can send. People who expect a reactee on will feel the weight of your restraint. Those who try to provoke you will feel the emptiness of your refusal. Those who seek drama will find none to feed on. Silence communicates that you operate on a different frequency, one where you don't chase approval, argue for validation, or entertain confusion. Your silence speaks the language of maturity. Silence empowers you to move strategically. When you're constantly explaining yourself, you reveal your plans, your fears, your doubts, and your vulnerabilities. But silence hides your strategy from those who don't deserve access to it. While others talk, you build. While others argue, you prepare. While others gossip, you elevate. Silence keeps your next move protected until it becomes visible through your results. There is a calm confidence that grows when you choose silence. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to value your own voice without needing it to echo in every room. You stop worrying about who misunderstands you and start caring about who aligns with you. Your silence becomes the proof that your inner stability no longer depends on external noise. This confidence does not shout, it stands. Silence teaches you emotiona, detachment. It allows you to witness negativity without absorbing it. It gives you the power to say, I am not part of this, even when someone tries to drag you in. Silence breaks the cycle of needing to be heard in places where your voice would never be valued. It lets you walk away from conflict without feeling the need to justify your exit. It trains your mind to stay elevated when others want you to sink. Every time you choose silence, you strengthen your self-control. You learn to respond only when a response elevates you, not when it entertains others. You learn to protect your heart from unnecessary battles. You learn to stay calm in situations designed to trigger you. Self-control is the foundation of emotional maturity, and silence is one of its greatest tools. It turns restraint into power and discipline into momentum. Silence allows you to live above the noise instead of within it. When you stop defending yourself, you stop giving people the power to shake your peace. You stop letting their opinions influence your actions. You begin moving with a sense of purpose that noise cannot distract. You begin thinking clearly, acting calmly, and growing steadily. Silence gives you the mental space required for transformation. Ultimately, silence becomes the proof that you no longer operate on the level of those who misunderstand you. You stop explaining yourself because your life becomes the explanation. You stop defending yourself because your growth becomes the evidence. You stop answering noise because you realize noise has nothing to do with your destiny. And the more you embrace silence, the more powerful, grounded, and unstoppable you become.